Let none but geometers enter here. Welcome to the Platonic Academy of Melbourne 2025. This is a recording of the introductory talk to Platonic esoteric geometry for those folks who missed the first class. Let none but geometers enter here. So read the sign above the first academy, Plato's Academy. At least so they say. But there's truth behind the myth. The geometric imagination is your gateway to Plato's philosophy, to Plato's way of seeing, to his understanding of experience, to what underlies your experience of particular objects. As mere shadows, passing shadows flickering on the cave wall, particular things are shadows of their formal essences. Their formal essences, shape, symmetry, relation, ratio, and proportion, their similarity, their self-similarity, similar and different, accord and discord, like and unlike, equal, unequal. Remember, every one idea, every one thing is a difference, every one a distinction, a unity in difference. The circle, the simplest relation of inside to outside. The inside is inside in that it's not outside. The outside is outside in that it's not inside. Remember the island? The island needs the sea which is exactly not the island. It needs the sea for it to be an island. Take away the sea and there is no island. It needs its not in order to be itself. It needs its not in order to be what it is. The distinction of the island includes the sea, distinguished from itself by its shoreline. The lines that you will draw today, the lines you will draw out of the point of your pencil, will express such distinctions. They will express widthless distinctions, as though cuts in the plane of your paper. The distinction of things is their being. They are distinct as distinct expressions of their form, which is the mathematical form of all knowing and being. So particular things have no external essence, according to Plato. You construct things in your experience, distinguishing your experience formally. There is only form of experience and form within form. It's form all the way down. For Plato, this is the essence of things, their essential being, their invisible, insensible, eternal being. The line expresses the ideal divide, the line of our circle, the line of the shoreline on our ideal island. The circle expresses perfect roundness, perfect encompassing enclosure. Think every place on the circle, every place is at the same distance from its center. Every place on the circle is in the same place in terms of itself. The circle expresses perfect roundness, perfect encompassing enclosure, perfect ideal divine essence. Yes, divine. Atheists, be not afraid. Plato reduces what is godly so that it is almost unrecognizable. For Plato, what is truly sacred behind all those crazy stories of the gods is what this geometry is pointing to. Geometry is a sacred practice, but not sacred in the sense of worshipping or sacrificing to some bearded man in the sky. Geometry is sacred because it points to the mind's eye towards what is truly immortal, eternal, universal, insensible, the source of all sensible experience, of all knowing, the unknowable, unspeakable essence beyond the cloud of unknowing. By paying attention to the distinctiveness of geometric form, to their similarity, their self-similarity to ratio and proportion, by paying attention to geometric objects as expressing their form, according to Plato, this is your gateway to seeing the form of everything you experience, everything that is. All you can know is form, because knowing and observing are formal in their very nature, because this is the form of I as observer, the observer I, the mind's eye. When the mind's eye observes the object of its experience, it observes itself. It observes itself as a projection distinguished from itself. It is observing itself as other. My experience, my sensible experience is part of me. Think, my touch is part of me. My sight is on my retina, is in my eyes, is part of me. This physiological metaphor expresses a deeper self-observation of the observer I. In realizing that I observe, what I observe is part of me, there also may come the realization that ultimately observer and observed are one. That the being of things is reduced to my observing, my knowing, and my knowing is part of my being as observer, as knower. So, my world contracts to its essence. I am my world. I am the world as I know it. Perhaps I am the world. I am the world distinguishing itself and observing itself as other. Let none but geometers enter here. None but geometers can enter here. As with other ancient schools, East or West, philosophy was taught in two different ways. One public, exoteric, Plato's dialogue. Most of us have read some of those. The other way, taught privately to continuing students, to students who have the initial understanding, the initiate. The other way is esoteric. And this was taught in Plato's academy. And this was mostly geometry. At the first academy, a great part of the teaching was not by words, but by practice, the practice of geometry. Today, as continuing students of Plato, you are well placed to begin this esoteric learning. And so we shall begin. But first, a word of advice. Don't get caught up in anxiety about your competence. It's not about that. It's not about learning any sophisticated techniques of geometry or mathematics. You can do that later if you like. But first, it's more about forgetting the particularity of things. It's about forgetting the particularity of things and thereby finding their deeper generality. It's less about acquiring knowledge, but more about letting go and relaxing into an attention on the underlying geometric forms, and then to generalize this experience of geometric objects, generalize it to all your experience of nature at first, of architecture at first, and of all your experience. You won't come to this right away. Don't rush it. You will progress, sometimes imperceptibly, if you let your mind's eye give attention to the form drawn out of the tip of your pencil. So, welcome to Platonic Esoteric Geometry. This class will run for 6 evenings. Let's take a deep dive into the world of Platonic geometry. Let's practice the art of geometry as a philosophical inquiry, just as the first academics did back in Athens 2,400 years ago. Let's take up our compass and let's start drawing.